It's live right now. Let's go. You're live. That's what we got. We're live right now. Hey, it's Rastafari King David giving it to you live and direct. Rastafari King David on YouTube. Hit the bell. You know the spiel. Hit the bell. Like and subscribe and all of that. My name is Rastafari King David. I'm originally from the United States. And currently in the UK, do a bit of traveling, move around the world and all of that. But right now, I'm in the UK right now, and I'm doing a series on what does it mean to be a Rasta. If you just tuned in, this is the second video on what it means to be Rasta. Last week, I touched on the Nazarene vow, and I'm putting forward that the original Christians were actually Nazarenes, and I went through a bit of the Bible scripture, which would be Numbers 6:1, that describes what it means to be a Nazarene. And a Nazarene, while he's walking with God, doesn't cut his hair, doesn't ingest alcohol, and or expose himself to dead bodies. That's part of the tenets of the Nazarene vow. And coincidentally, one of the most famous Nazarenes was Samson. But if you move forward into the Bible, into the New Testament, they speak of how it's a lot of places like, let's see if I can find one. John, actually, where am I at right now? I'm at St. Mark, and I took the notes for this as well. St. Mark makes reference to Jesus and how he's from the town of Nazareth, and then there's other places in the New Testament where they claim that Jesus was from the town of Nazareth in Galilee. Well, since we have a Western understanding of things, we mess up a lot. We mess up a lot. The original text was written in Greek, and in the original text, it didn't say Jesus from Nazareth. It said Jesus the Nazarene, meaning he followed the similar tenements of Samson in the Bible, which I told you spoke about in the Old Testament. So Jesus was a Nazarene who followed the tenements that I mentioned before, which was don't cut your hair, don't ingest strong drinks, things of that nature. And what happens is you can argue left or right whether they were devout Nazarenes, and because a lot of the Nazarenes in the Bible, although they were holy and divine, they did make some mistakes. So my take on that is that although we may be flawed, we still have the ability to strive and be one with the Most High. That said, as a Rasta, a lot of times they'll mention stuff like I and I, or the I and I, the when they speak coming from themselves, they'll say the I and I, and a lot of times that can be confusing. But in Rasta tenements, I and I identifies with the spirit of the universe, and you represent a piece of that spirit in the universe. So when you're saying I, you're speaking to a small version of God, in addition to the big version of God. So you're identifying yourself with God when you say I and I. So instead of saying I'll do this, a Rasta might say I and I don't subscribe to Babylon foolishness, meaning the spirit in me doesn't resonate with the lies that you're pushing in my direction. That's the Nazarene vow. Thanks for tuning in. I got I've been doing this about 4 minutes or so. What I wanted to do was make sure I got in there before the end of the sun over here in the UK. So I wanted to squeeze this one out real quick. Coincidentally, I've been doing my research and I found a new professor. Her name is Wardell. Let's make sure I'm getting this professor's name right. Her name is Ariella Worden Greenfield, and she's a doctor at the Temple University on religious studies. And she did a piece on warriors and prophets of levity, Samson and Moses, as moral exemplars in Rastafari. This woman did a fantastic job on this piece right here. I just found it today, so I won't be able to chop it up and give it to you, but I'm going to be chopping that up and bringing it directly to you. I'm gonna see if I can get those links for you so you can reach out to her and see what else she's talking about, because she gave a pretty good synopsis of Rastafari as it is, in society today. And she also points to some of the drawbacks without really disparaging it. One of those being it's really a patriarchal approach to life, and they can sometimes subvert the woman's energy. That's a conversation. We can get in that conversation. And we're going to be getting into those conversations as I discuss what it means to be Rasta, or at least what it means to be Rasta for me. Also, in order to identify with Rastafari, it's about being natural and one with nature. Rastafarianism identifies it as a religion. When you add that ism on it, when in actuality, it's not really a religion, it's a way of life or approach to life. And it's quite diversified. It's a worldwide following. We have people all over the world that follow the tenets of Rastafari. That's being natural, try to bring out the Most High within self, seeing everyone as your brethren, identifying the current Western system as evil, therefore called Babylon. I'm jumping around a lot, but what happens is we'll look at the Bible, and based on our preconceptions of the Bible is how we receive it. And I'm of the school that the Bible is a current translation of much older texts. So while the Bible may have been manipulated, it still has the thread of truth running through it. And that's part of another aspect of Rastafari teaching, is that you should read the Bible every day and take away from it what you gather from it. Since the Most High is within you and is an aspect of you that represents the Most High, you can use that to discern what you're reading when you're reading the Babylonian Bible, because that's what we have now is a watered down version of the Bible in front of us. And a lot of times people will say that, well, they use the Bible to subvert us. Yes, they do. But the point is, the Bible that we have now has been manipulated and misconstrued in order to confuse as opposed to enlightening. So what I want you to do, or I would ask for you to do, is to not get so caught up in the minutia and the materiality of it. Depending on who you're asking, some will argue that it's literal, and some will argue that it's symbolic. The literal people would be called fundamentalists, and fundamentalists from a literal aspect are really stoic and traditional and have a lot of opinions on what they think you should do in your life. While on the opposite side, you have the people that would look at it symbolically, meaning doesn't necessarily have to be that detailed, and it's more on what it represents for you. How does this work for you? It's not cut and dry. It's malleable. It's circular. And the Bible speaks to that circularness, as it represents now, it represents the past, it represents the future. But again, it's your take on the past, present, and the future. And it's not there to subjugate a people. Jesus Christ is an example that we all can aspire to. And that's the point of the story, is that here is the essence of the Most High in a being who had to suffer with all of the same things that we suffer with as being human beings, and he moved above it. So that's what I take away from the Bible. That's what I take away from Christianity or so-called Christianity. That's what I take away from the Old Testament, because it's a lot of similar characters in there who may have, while they may be flawed, they still aspire to do the job of the Most High and what they came here to do. So with that, I'm going to be signing off. Thanks for tuning in. 10 minutes with your boy. I'm trying to make sure I can give it to you every Sunday or so. Got a little bit darker, faster than I expected. But you can check me out on Rastafari King David on Instagram and Rastafari King David YouTube. And thelovemovement.co, that's the personal website. I'm working on that. It's still a work in progress. And on Fridays, doing the radio show, kickstarting your weekend with King David and Hills FM 98.6 in Coventry. And you can catch that broadcast as well on www.hillsfm.co.uk. Thanks for tuning in. Holla at your boy. And shit.